public webcam captures a dark form lingering just beneath the surface. A woman on a family outing photographs something breaking the water. A cruise captain records an unexplained sonar contact deep below. A tourist takes a single image that refuses to settle into certainty, and divers come face to face with something massive in the dark. These are not stories from decades ago. They are recent, documented, and still unresolved. Not proof, not hoaxes, just moments where Loch Ness behaves as if something is there and never explains itself. These are 5 modern Nessie sightings that are harder to dismiss than they should be. Tim Campbell, the webcam that wouldn't settle. This sighting didn't happen on the loch. It happened on a screen. On June 7th, Tim Campbell was watching a public Loch Ness webcam from Northern Ireland when something on the water caught his attention. Not a splash, not a passing boat, just a dark disturbance forming in one spot and refusing to behave normally. Pulses, tightens, it stretches out again, and it stays. This isn't a blink and you miss it moment. The movement holds in the same area for minutes, subtly changing shape but never resolving into anything familiar. It doesn't travel cleanly across the frame. It doesn't fade out quickly, and nothing ever surfaces to explain it. That's what makes the clip uncomfortable. The camera doesn't move. No one is reacting. There's no framing, no zoom, no intention. Just the loch doing something and continuing to do it. Teases, flirts with the surface. You keep waiting for a boat to enter the frame, or an animal to break the surface, or the water to settle. None of that happens. The disturbance remains localized, organized, and oddly restrained, before slowly thinning out and disappearing without resolution. That's what makes it harder to explain through something familiar. There's no claim attached to this footage. No witness standing by the shore. No explanation offered in the moment. Just a few uninterrupted minutes where the loch seems to respond to something that never appears. But something is there. At this point, watching simply turns into waiting. Sean Sloggy, Sonar Contact, September 2024. Imagine standing on Loch Ness early one morning, not watching the water, but listening beneath it. That's what Sean Sloggy was doing in September 2024, preparing the spirit of Loch Ness for departure, eyes on the sonar screen. Nearly 100 meters down, something appeared. Sonar doesn't give you pictures. It gives you returns, shapes built from sound, outlines made of echo. Most are familiar. Fish, terrain, noise. Years on the loch teach you that. This one didn't fit. A distinct return held together in open water, suspended just above the bottom. It wasn't attached to terrain. It didn't scatter like a school of fish. And it didn't vanish. It stayed. 2 minutes, maybe 3. Long enough for Sloggy to take a screenshot. He later said it bothered him. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was coherent, structured, separate. That's what made it more compelling. The shape, rounded and oval at one end, elongated at other. Consistent with Nessie descriptions from over the years. This wasn't the surface reacting. This was depth. Sonar is imperfect. It doesn't show creatures. It shows presence and disturbance. But for someone who spends hundreds of days reading that screen, this return stood apart. And that's where this escalates. By now, the pattern isn't just something brushing the surface and disappearing. It's something occupying the water column itself. Unseen, unlit, revealed when sound crosses it. Chia Kelly, August 2018. On August 13, 2018, Chia Kelly was having lunch with her family at the Doors Inn, looking out over Loch Ness. She had her camera out, taking casual photos, when something moved in the distance. About 200 meters from shore, something moving, not fast, not splashing, just steady, right to left, low in the water. She started shooting frame after frame. What shows up isn't dramatic, but it's precise. No head, no neck, just a dark, rounded form, maybe 2 smooth humps, rolling just above the surface. The water doesn't really break around it. Tightens, then it lets go. The movement keeps going. Minutes pass, then it's gone. Kelly didn't release the photos, not for years. She expected people to laugh. She wasn't sure herself. She ran through the usual explanations. Seals, otters, driftwood. But one detail wouldn't leave her alone. Nothing ever surfaced completely. The motion stayed controlled the entire time. She couldn't say what it was, only what it wasn't. Years later, when the images finally reached Steve Feltham, who has spent more than 30 years watching this loch, he called them the most exciting surface photographs he'd ever seen. He didn't say they showed a monster. He said they showed exactly the kind of movement he hopes to see. And that's the problem. Because these photos don't argue with you. They don't explain themselves. They just show the loch responding as if something passed through it. And once you've seen that, you don't really stop looking for it. Stephen Chalice, the image that changed the tone. In 2019, while visiting Loch Ness near Urquhart Castle, Steve Chalice noticed unusual movement on the water and raised his camera. He wasn't filming a creature. He was photographing the surface. Only later, reviewing the image, did something stand out. The photo appears to show a long shape partially above the surface, moving forward with a foaming trail behind it. Unlike earlier sightings, this one isn't subtle. There's mass here, direction, a wake that suggests sustained motion. And yet, the details stop short. No head, no clear tail, no defining features you can confidently name. Chalice didn't call it the Loch Ness Monster. He didn't even claim anything unknown. His own explanation was cautious. Possibly a large fish, something uncommon but natural. That restraint is part of why the image drew attention. Because once it circulated, the questions didn't settle. They multiplied. Questions about the original file added to the debate, limiting how much could be confirmed. Scale estimates shifted. Distance was debated. The wake itself became part of the mystery, behaving in ways some found difficult to pin to a single explanation. What mattered wasn't proof. It was friction. The image refused to resolve cleanly into belief or dismissal. It sat uncomfortably in between. Too visible to ignore, too incomplete to name. And by this point, the pattern has changed. The loch is no longer just hinting at something beneath the surface. It's starting to show itself more clearly, but still without explaining what it's showing. Mike Lynch, diver contact 150 feet down. On the northern end of Loch Ness, Captain Mike Lynch spots something unusual on sonar. Not noise, not terrain. A dark return moving near shoals of fish, behaving like something navigating space rather than drifting. Whatever it is, it's moving. The decision is immediate. Divers are deployed without delay. No debate, no careful framing. Just urgency because whatever triggered the contact is already on the move. They descend quickly. Light fades. Mud and debris thicken the water. With every foot downward, visibility collapses. Above them, the shoals of fish that drew attention scatter suddenly, fleeing something unseen. Then the encounter happens. A massive form passes directly in front of the camera. It strikes the housing, knocking it aside, detonating a cloud of sand and debris that fills the frame. There's no time to identify shape or detail. Only proximity, only force. As the sediment settles, the water is empty again. Whatever moved through that space disappears into darkness without circling back. At more than 150 feet down, with oxygen running low, the dive has to end. The team ascends knowing something was there, knowing contact was made, but without a name to give it. By now, the pattern has closed in. What began as distant disturbance has become presence. And this time, it came close to collision. 5 sightings, no conclusions, because the loch doesn't offer proof. Only questions that linger long after the water goes still. What moves beneath remains exactly that, unknown. The story doesn't end here. For more mysteries, join us and subscribe to Beyond the Myth.